welcome. If folks, as you are arriving, would introduce yourselves in the chat. I know many of us come every month, but some folks are always new. So if you would share your name, your pronouns, what community you're phoning in from or representing. And I would love to hear about a thing you love about back to school season. If you would like to share. My favorite thing about back to school season is always buying new writing utensils. I'll just say that up front, but it's like the best part of going back to school was back to school shopping and getting notebooks and pens. But this is a very prompt crowd for the first week of school. Well, I see a few folks trickling in, so we'll give it just a minute here as all those folks are joining us. And then we will get started. I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about today. Aw, I want to, Karen, I want to see photos of your 5-year-old grandson's first day of school. I bet that was very cute. All right. Welcome to the folks who are just joining us. I think that's the last. I mean, there might be a couple more folks, but I'm very excited to see you all. And thank you all for making space on the first week of school. This is the this is the September 7th. How did it get to be September 7th? Safe Routes to School Network Call. I'm very excited to be with you all today. I love talking with all of you as part of the Safe Routes to School Network. We're dedicated professionals from organizations and agencies and communities across Minnesota. We're building skills, building partnerships, and advocating for changes that make walking, bicycling, and rolling to schools better for kids of all ages and abilities. So we are gonna keep talking. If you were with us last month, we're gonna keep talking about the new active transportation education update today. So we're doing a welcome. Hi all, my name is Alyssa. I'm with Move Minnesota. We'll have our MnDOT update from our good friend Dave. And then we'll just have a minute or two from Angela at BikeMN talking about what they're seeing as far as the active transportation education update. And then we're going to have a group discussion. We haven't had a group discussion in a while. So hope you all are excited to just hear how things are going, share successes, do some problem solving together, talk about challenges, of which I'm sure there will be some. So very excited to chat with you all today. With that, I will stop sharing screen if I can figure out how to do that and turn it over to Dave.
Yeah, you're going to want to enable screen sharing for me too, I think. I don't have any control.
I guess, Julie, could you make Dave a co-host? Because I apparently cannot.
Yes.
Well, you do that. This just happened like an hour ago, so I'm still kind of buzzing from it. But so my kids are in middle school now, but when they were in elementary school, I was always organizing our neighborhood walking school bus and bike train to school. And this was the first year that I'm not doing it now that they're middle schoolers. And about 9 o'clock this morning, I heard all of these bike bells out in front. And so I like stuck my head out the window, and there were like more than 10 kids like circling up in front of my house. And the bike train is continuing. And so it's really fun to look outside and see that there was another parent that picked it up and is organizing the kids. So anyway, I'm still kind of buzzing from that. And now I have screen sharing power, so that's perfect timing. Let's see here. A couple of updates from MnDOT. It is the beginning of the school year, so this is kind of when you'll start hearing a lot more from us about opportunities for you and your communities. So hopefully you've got your ears on. I'm going to walk you through a couple of those. The first is asking you all to get your encouragement events on the calendar. This is what we have for 2023 and 2024. Walk to School Day coming up. It's under a month out. So if you are tracking that and you're at the beginning of school, now's a good time to start talking about it with school leadership. And while you're at it, you might as well have them add these next 2 dates onto their calendars as well, looking for Winter Walk to School Day in that first week, first Wednesday in February, and then Bike to School Day on May 8th of 2024. Per usual, if you get your schools signed up at walkbiketoschool.org, that is like the National Center's sign up spot, but we work with them to make sure that we are aware of everybody that's getting registered. We will ship materials to your school. So if you're a Safe Routes to School coordinator, or maybe you're working on SHIP, make sure that you send that to the address of the person that's actually going to do something with those materials. They are things like posters that can be hung up around the school, those little like reflective state of Minnesota zipper pulls, educational bookmarks that can be handed out, and we're trying our hand at banners this year. So this kind of step up and hop on and roll out banner is a vinyl banner that we will ship one time to each school that registers, so that they have something a little bit more permanent that they can put up from event to event. And it's fairly large. I think it's like 2 feet by 5 feet. So get registered and we'll send that stuff out so schools can have some materials to promote walking and biking. In addition to what we're able to send to you all, we also try to keep on our website various other materials that you can download and use. So again, posters and postcards that can be sent out, that can be customized to your school. They're in like PowerPoint and Word files, so you can change the dates and the names. Social media messages that that can be shared on your social media account, or you can follow the Minnesota Safe Routes to School account and just share the stuff that we put out there. Activity materials, mileage tracker or mileage tracker, as is stated on here, and then communication templates. So like, we know principals are busy this time of year, like verbatim language that they can say over the announcements to help get kids and families aware of what's going on as Walk to School Day approaches, or press releases for your community. So all that stuff is available on our website for download, and it is in English and in Somali and in Spanish. And I'm missing the third language there.
Hmong.
Hmong, thank you, Kelly. Kelly is always so clutch. And then we also hold our photo contest annually for Walk to School Day. So I saw Jenny talking about how her favorite part of fall is her social media feed and all the faces of kids going back to school. I should have put my favorite part of fall is the social media feed, seeing all of the Walk to School Day photos come in from around the state. So please either share your photos on social media and tag us. I know Karma's always really great about that up in Grand Forks, or send them to us via email, or use hashtag MnWalks, and we'll see them that way. And then we will announce the winners of the photo contest in late October for bragging rights. If you're newer to Safe Routes to School, or maybe you're looking for a new dimension to your kind of Walk to School Day event, there's a couple of ideas that are available in our Safe Routes to School Resource Center. Minneapolis and many other communities have these walking routes for youth maps, or maps that have been developed as a part of their Safe Routes to School planning process. So that's a time for you to be communicating out all of these recommended routes that you've identified in your Safe Routes to School plan that are safer and easier and more convenient for students to be walking and biking on. You can consider doing a bus stop and walk or a park and walk. The bus stop and walk being where the bus drops the students that are on the bus, a quarter of a mile, a half mile away from the school, and are able to walk in so that all students get a chance to participate. And along the lines of all students getting a chance to participate, the park and walk does something very similar with drivers, moving the traffic away from the front of the school, and allowing students that are being driven to get a little bit of physical activity and participate in Walk to School Day in one way or another. I know that that inclusivity has been really important in my kids' school, and so finding ways to include those students that maybe don't live a walkable or bikeable distance, or maybe they have to cross a pretty gnarly road, or hazard, and so get driven or bust. Additionally, there's things like the story stroll, where you can put signs along outside the school or on the way to school that tell a little bit of a story. There's walking school buses and bike trains, organizing those for your walk to school day event. Definitely builds momentum and is something that can often, like in the example of the bike train out front this morning, can be sustained beyond walk to school day when students realize and parents realize that walking and biking to school is really like fun and maybe the highlight of their day. And then don't forget that walk to school day is yes, great for the school, and also a chance to invite elected officials and earn media via press releases, or even just inviting media to come out and cover your walk to school day event. That does a lot for the promotion of walking and biking to school, but also kind of raises it into the consciousness of decision makers that are involved in transportation safety in your community. So those are some of the things related to walk to school day. In the same month of walk to school day every year is when MnDOT rolls out all of these various grant opportunities. We have, as many of you know, a lot more funding coming for both infrastructure and non-infrastructure. So, if you're just coming back from your summer break and getting like caught up again on work, it's time to brace yourself. There's a lot of opportunity for your community, and it also requires lifts on all of your part. Steve Prusak joined us today just to talk a little bit about some of the infrastructure funding that we have available. Steve, do you want to pop off mute real quick and say hello?
Yeah, I can hop on again. Welcome everybody. As Dave's pointed out here, I am the point person for the state aid, safe routes, and active transportation infrastructure solicitations. We are kicking those off here with some informational webinars. All links for those are posted on the respective websites. I will dump those in the chat here. Looks like Kelly's on top of it there. So those are kicking off here. There'll be 3 presentations for each program of the same information, once per week for the next 3 weeks, starting next week, Tuesday. So there we'll go over all the details for the programs, for the applications, letters of intent, get into the fine details there. If none of those dates and times work, we will post that presentation as well to the website before the applications open. And for both of those will be October 9th is when the letters of intent process will open, with full applications here starting after Thanksgiving and due on Groundhog's Day, so in February. So with the plan to make some selections and awards here in the April-May timeframe of 2024 for both programs. But the data here that's listed looks right. The totals and the selection pools here look good as stated. I know that I am not responsible for TA, but I do know that they are on a very similar time frame, and I will have those dates included and at least a brief mention of them in the webinars. So.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't mind, Steve, I'll add a little editorial. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. If you're new to Safe Routes to School infrastructure funding, understand that these various buckets can fund things like sidewalks and trails and crossings, and we'll dive into more detail about that in October. Steve's going to give us a 101 on that. But they all fund very similar types of activities, and there are some things that kind of set one funding source aside from the other one, which is why hitting those webinars that Steve mentioned might be really helpful for you. In the meantime, I'm going to give you a quick cheat sheet, which is the Safe Routes to School infrastructure solicitation. It's statewide. It's quite a bit more money than we've had in the past and does not require a match. It is ripe for applications. I hope you all are working with your communities to dig into your Safe Routes to School plans and find those prioritized projects to submit. The active transportation solicitation is similar to that. It is state funds. There is more available than ever has been before, and there is no match required. However, there is a focus through the solicitation that Steve is working on there on Greater Minnesota only. And the reason for that is that the Met Council that holds a similar solicitation for similar types of projects with a similar large pot of money is going to be focused on the metro, both with transportation alternatives dollars and with state active transportation dollars. And so that solicitation is focused, the one Steve is for active transportation is focused outside of the 7-county metro, as is the Transportation Alternatives Program, which has been around a long time and should be very familiar to those of you that are old hat, but it is Greater Minnesota. There is a regional amount of money that's allocated for each region in Minnesota and does require a 20% match because it is federal funds, not state funds. So that was meant to be a cheat sheet and then started to sound like its own webinar. Sorry about that. Do attend Steve's presentations on this. There's lots of little tidbits of information that I think will be useful to learn about there.
Yeah, Dave, I will also drop my contact info in the chat here if folks have any questions prior to that time or during that time. So look forward to seeing some of you there. Thanks.
Great.
So I do have a question that I think relates to everyone is that lives outside of the metro area. Is the active transportation solicitation Greater Minnesota only? Could that be similar to a boost grant in that people could use it, or is it all infrastructure?
What we are talking about currently is infrastructure funding only.
Okay, thank you.
I know a plan is being devised for your next question, Karen, and I'm not sure we have a clear enough path forward at this point to outline that for you, but coming soon. And speaking of coming soon, I'm going to flip over to non-infrastructure here just to cover these. So at the same time that we're opening all these solicitations for infrastructure funding, we also have some other non-infrastructure opportunities that we're going to roll out here in October. Many of you know that 4, maybe 5 years ago now, we had a Safe Routes to School coordinator solicitation. We plan to do that again with our additional state funds. And from the input we've heard from you all and the steering committee and the coordinators themselves, Safe Routes to School coordinators are game changers for school districts and communities when it comes to advancing safe routes. And we want to fund more of them. Maybe we will be funding them in your community. Please consider thinking about putting together an application for that in October. We will share those details next month. Similarly, many years back now, we held a solicitation for engineering studies, which are intended to bridge this gap between a Safe Routes to School plan and an infrastructure project, creating kind of pull sheets for various infrastructure projects that would address identified intersections that were potentially part of your Safe Routes to School plan, but did not have the level of detail necessary to go directly from plan to infrastructure implementation. And we have mentioned this on prior calls, but we're also working on a student safety patrol / crossing guard equipment grant to help support schools that are getting things rolling here in the fall as well. So we hope to have all of those details for you in October related to the non-infrastructure funds. And then in the spring, we've kind of shifted our timeline for these 2 other grant opportunity types. For boost grants and planning assistance grants, you can expect those applications to come out late winter, early spring, so that you after your application goes in, you hear back quickly and you are moving to contract, and then the start of the school year comes and you're set to go for the school year. So we don't have quite as much time between application and program implementation. So I did have another section here that I was going to talk a little bit about crossing guards and student safety patrol, but I think I have adequately used my time, Alyssa. And so I'm going to put that on the back burner for next time, and maybe we could move on to the next portion of this call.
That sounds good. Always lovely to work ahead and have your notes for the next call already done. And thanks as always for the MnDOT update. Reliably, people's favorite part of this call. Now we're gonna shift into some kind of open-ended conversation. So I'm going to first turn over to Angela so that we can hear a little bit about what she and the team at BikeMN are seeing and hearing about the new active transportation education requirement. And then I'll want to hear from all of you about how that's going in your communities and for you. So I'll kick it over to Angela for just a minute or two. Does that seem fair, Angela?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks all. If I could, I can share the landing page just so people can have a visual. That might be helpful. I can either share my screen or let you do it.
I think I'm gonna tap Julie again to make you co-host because I'm not sure
Okay.
I'm a co-host. I don't
Oh.
know why I don't have co-hosting
On
ability to
it.
make you a co-host. So
There you go. Should be
All
good.
right. Great. All right. Nobody's allowed to comment on how many tabs I have open. So, all right, here is the landing page that we've created. Some of you might already be familiar with this, but BikeMN.org, education requirements is the URL up there. I can also put it in the chat when I'm done sharing. But this is a landing page that we've been creating. It's a living document, I've been saying it. So we've been constantly kind of updating it as new things become available. So right now, the most helpful things I think that we have available on here at people's requests are some videos that we found from the Federal Highway Administration. They're available in English and Spanish for multiple grade levels for both the younger kids and the older kids about walking and biking. We have had our virtual office hours. Those have been, like only a couple people have attended, but we'll probably schedule a couple more over the next couple weeks just to have it available. And then the other thing that'll be helpful as soon as it's uploaded is a recording of the webinar that I hosted last Thursday that some of you might have actually attended. That was actually super valuable for me. I was really pleasantly surprised at how many people came. I think we had about 20. And so that's recorded. It'll be uploaded to both our YouTube page, and we'll link it to this page as well. We're in the middle of the St. Paul Classic, which is this weekend, which is like our biggest event of the year. So our one communications person is pretty slammed. So that should be uploaded by next week. And then we can also share it out on both the Safe Routes Network, email listserv, SHIP, and Basecamp as well. There's a little bit in here, something that we've heard is like, what is the why? Why is it important to teach this? So there's a little bit about that in there. And then a list of other resources. Again, this is constantly growing. We're adding things. MnDOT has created their Safe Routes landing page that's got some really good information. And then frequently asked questions. As you have more questions, as things come up about how to implement this, especially in the next 2 weeks, please feel free to email me and we'll start adding them onto this page. I'll stop there. To be honest with you, since last Thursday, and maybe it's just because I did such a great job, but I'm guessing it more has to do with the fact that school has started. But we haven't really gotten that many questions about this rollout, which I think is, again, probably largely due to the fact that school has just started. But, all of our technical assistance offerings are still there. People can request materials. Eventually, we'll have materials branded kind of just for this particular thing. But because this is happening so quickly, we just don't have that for this fall. So yeah, the most common question we've been getting is like, how will this be checked? Like, who's going to check this? The answer to which is, I don't know. And then why and what are the basics? So we've tried to kind of pull together like the fast and furious kind of here's what you can do. And then the other question a lot of people have been asking is, if I have a plan to do this in the spring, is that okay? And the answer to that is yes and no. We've been just telling people like, do a 30-minute primer for your students now to get them prepared for doing it, and then follow through with your plan for the spring. So, thanks, CJ. Has already shared the landing page there. And then Kelly has also listed another frequently asked questions that they've gotten on their Safe Routes AT education landing page as well. And you probably all know already, but I'll just put my email. You can reach out for any questions, help in doing this, anything like that. You can also share it with people. You have my permission to do that. So yeah, those are the things that have been coming up. You know, the goal, which we don't have right now, we know that people want this, but the goal is to have like a one-pager. As you can imagine, distilling down everything, especially in the biking section on a one-page flyer, is kind of complicated, and untangling that has taken some effort on our part. So I don't want to create it if it's not going to be useful or helpful. So we're trying to make that happen. But we do have some other things I think that can kind of serve that need for now. So
always more difficult to say something in fewer words.
Well, you know, especially with some of the biking skills, I don't know how, and maybe this can lead us into the discussion, but I don't know how to write on a flyer, here's a safe biking skill that you should do, and actually have it be like useful. So, and also CJ's just reminding me that we'll eventually have kid facing and teacher facing videos. We obviously don't have that right now because, again, I don't want to make something that's not going to be like useful or well done, especially if it's going to be facing kids. I don't want us to make something like really fast and furious that's going to be like not useful. So those will be coming up. We do work with a production company at BikeMN. So the goal this year is to cover our bases, and then by next year have something beautifully produced and easy to digest. And we're going to do that by learning how things are operating now. So
well, yes, Angela, that is a great segue into our broader discussion. Thanks so much for all of those share outs. And this year is a learning experience for all of us, even those of us who have been doing this work for a long time. So exciting to be in it all together. With that, I think I will, so I do have some like questions, but I think I just want to start by kind of opening it up to the group. I know I've checked in with a couple people to hear what are you doing? What are you planning? What do you have planned? What do you wish you could be doing? I know that's kind of a big question, but just wanting to get a sense from a number of you of like, what is your experience of actually trying to implement this thing? What are you experiencing? What are you seeing other people experiencing? I think ask my fellow sort of call hosts, do you think I should take notes? Should I take notes on the whiteboard? Should I use the Zoom whiteboard function? We've never done that, I don't think. I'm coming up with a plan on the fly. I'm realizing as I was listening to Angela talk, I was like, oh, it'd be really nice to have some notes of what Angela just said. So what do we think? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So while I load in the whiteboard or figure out they changed the entire whiteboard function. So maybe I'll just open up a Word document and take some notes there and learn how to do the whiteboard function for later. So yeah, with that, I'll get that open up and share it on the screen, start to take some notes. And then yeah, if folks want to either come off mute, or you can raise your hand and put yourself in the queue, and Dave and I can call on you. Let's get started. What are people seeing? What are people hearing? What are people feeling? I see Sarah's hand is up.
Hey everyone. Emailed me yesterday to see if I could talk about what we're doing here. I work in the St. Paul Public Schools and as a Safe Routes to School lead. And I don't technically work over the summer. So there wasn't a lot. The district really didn't do anything over the summer to prepare for this. So I came back to work last week and met with a few key people, you know, the head of communications and the head of transportation, to talk about what could we actually accomplish this year. And so what we ended up deciding was to do like a communications heavy approach this fall and less focused on like actually like classroom based instruction. We have 49 schools that have elementary and or middle school students in them. And so getting something out to all those schools the week before school starts and creating something meaningful and getting the right people on board and knowing what kind of material are going to be the most useful. We just couldn't make that happen. And if we tried, I think we would just end up making people really angry and hate this whole thing. That's not what we wanted either. So the things that we're doing we're communicating with families. So we have a digital flyer, like backpacking system that we're going to use, and we're going to put in the BikeMN posters that they created about safe walking and biking. And then we are also communicating in a kind of strict newsletter that families and other folks get about walk, bike, and roll to school day. And so we'll add a little bit in that about the resources we've sent home and encourage families to look at them with their students. We're communicating with school administrators to let them know that this is a new requirement. So we have a administrator newsletter that we're going to put information in. We're also creating a newsletter, a family newsletter template that they can use with their families. So we're letting them know what we're doing, and then we're also sharing the BikeMN resources if they would like to do more in their schools, that they have that option. And we're sharing the similar information in a wider employee newsletter, and then I'm also sharing it in our Safe Routes to School email list that I maintain. And then we're creating a landing page on our district website with more information too that we can point people to. So the goal is really to get information out there to support schools that want to do in school education, but just kind of recognize that we can't do this the way that maybe we want to this year, and look to improving it next school year when we can get all the right people on board and have the right kinds of materials that will work for schools. And that's it.
Couldn't get the bar to pop up to unmute myself. That is, I don't know, that feels like a lot of things. I know you said, part of what I took away from your comments were like, you made a really intentional and strategic decision not to, right? There's like the things that you want to do, which are like really big. And then there's the things that you can realistically do, and the choice to like do what you can and do that well, as opposed to like try to do all the things and do them poorly. Sounds like was a really thoughtful choice.
Yeah, I would say that's true. And I think I've tried to like tell myself too, just remind myself that we're doing more than we've ever done. And that's great. That's a huge win. So we'll take it for this year.
Yeah, that is more than you've ever done is a lot of things. So cool. Thanks for sharing out, Sarah. If folks have specific questions for Sarah, feel free to note those in the chat, and we can definitely come back to them. Or if it sparks anything for you, or you want to hear more about what people are doing with, I don't know, digital backpacks. I was like, that's cool. That's not a thing I had when I was in school. But I see Karma has put a bunch of photos in the chat and has a hand raised, and I would love to hear more about these photos. You're on mute, I think, or you don't have audio, or maybe I'm just having a problem, but I can't hear you. Oh, always tech is a problem.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Hello. Yay. Great.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
a fast tech fix.
I got lucky. So as soon as we heard about the new law and requirement, we had received some Safe Routes funding prior to that, but we kicked into very high gear and reached out to our schools around the region, and they were super excited that we would be able to help them with meeting some of those requirements. School started on Tuesday, and we are today at one of the very large elementary schools, 3rd through 5th grade here in East Grand Forks. We'll be there today and tomorrow doing our Safety Around Schools program, where we talk about the 4 ways kids get to school: car, bus, bike, and pedestrian. We are doing that school today and tomorrow. And then we have about 7 or 8 more sessions at Minnesota schools throughout the month of September. We also have schools who are super excited about International Walk to School Day. We got information out in all of the backpacks of kids about pedestrian safety ahead of school. So that has gone out so that the parents are getting the education as well. And we have done 4 radio interviews. Well, and that's not really true because we did one station. We did 4 different stations at a particular media center. So we did 4, 5, 6, 7 radio interviews over the last week and a half talking about back to school safety tips and really giving a big, huge shout out to Minnesota Safe Routes to School for their really their emphasis on keeping kids safe as they get to and from schools. And so we've had a great reception from our schools around the area. And as one school hears about it, another one's on board asking us for help. And so we have a lot more schools lined up and ready to invite us in. And I seem to feel like we are getting sometimes it's hard to get into schools. This has been super easy and they are lining up waiting for us. So we're just really grateful to be able to have the funding support to be able to do this work. And so thank you to those who have supported that effort.
Amazing. Thanks, Karma. And could you just hopefully I caught most of it in the notes, but could you just talk a little bit about like where which schools these photos are from? Is that the school you're at today?
This is the school we're at today. They actually just sent me these photos right now. This is at South Point Elementary in East Grand Forks. And we have, I can tell you where we will be going. We are at South Point in East Grand Forks today and tomorrow. On Monday, the 11th, we're in Fisher, Minnesota. On the 14th and 15th, we're at New Heights in East Grand Forks. On September 18th, we are in Crookston, Minnesota. September 20th, we are at Challenger School in Thief River Falls, Minnesota on the 20th and the 21st. And then we are also, it's not on our schedule, but on the schedule I just pulled up here, but we're going to be doing another elementary school in Crookston too. I just don't have that date yet. That's Crookston, Minnesota.
You're everywhere. It's kind of what I'm hearing. You're going everywhere.
We are everywhere.
And doing everything. I love that you've got the photos of like all the kids doing different stuff, right? Like there's some folks on the bus and some folks who are clearly doing some walking stuff. And so that's very cool. Awesome. I see we have a couple more hands up again. If folks, I see there's some folks who are interested in getting some of the flyers that you all have used maybe as examples in the chat. But if anybody has any other questions or comments or things that's sparking, Tina, you've got your hand up, so I'll call on you.
I was just going to say, I'll try to lower my hand here. So I'm at Wabasha County for SHIP, and we have all new superintendents in our county. So I've been trying to introduce myself to them. And during the process, I've been kind of reviewing some of our past work. 2 of the schools have had planning assistance grants. And so I've talked about the funding opportunities coming up for infrastructure grants. One of them had applied previously and didn't get it. And I said, well, now's a good time to retry and, gear up towards it and offering to help in any way we can to get there. And then also the one school district we have that didn't apply for a planning assistance grant also has a lot going on in that they are working on SHIP helped support a feasibility study to get a bridge across the Zumbro River to connect 2 cities, Kellogg and Wabasha, which is all in the same school district. So if that has progress, that could help students get to school via biking and walking as well. So lots going on. And then also, I have been sharing with the superintendents and anyone else who will listen about the new curriculum requirements, and saying, I know it's a lot going into the school year with sudden change, but I've been trying to share that. And we do have a schools collaborative meeting coming up in October where I'll also share it. So would take any additional resources you may have to share in that way. Also put a story about it in our website that is also coming out in our e-news soon. So.
Oh, thanks, Tina. I feel like one of the things I'm just noted, like there's a lot of, right? There's pieces of this that are about doing the thing, and then there are pieces of this that are about communicating about the thing. And I'm just noticing this sort of shared recognition that like we have to communicate about the thing before we can do it. And that might be one of the most important things we actually have capacity to do at this moment in time. If we can't do all the things, making sure people are aware of what's going on. So Jenny, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Jenny Borden with Minneapolis Public Schools, and just happy to share a little bit about what we are doing and how we thought about it. And I think similar to East Grand Forks, I think we really aligned it with bus safety education and thinking of it as really a back to school, the modes of getting to school. And we were lucky in that we had already worked with transportation to embed walking and biking education into bus safety education. So there is a required lesson that was like crossing in front of the bus or something like that. And we just extended that, like walking to the bus stop and walking home from the bus stop. So, and the idea back then was really to embed it and not add it as an extra or a possible. And so all that work had been done years ago. So I don't, so it's there to be implemented this week by classroom teachers. So that's the way they do bus safety education in our district. And there is accountability to it. And so I was just hush hush about that. There was not really accountability unless people were really stressing out about it. And then we also offered, so that's an internal system. So every classroom teacher really is told to implement it with their classes. And then I also added the BikeMN resources along with it. And I will drop into the chat just our newsletter so you can kind of see that we, as part of Back to School, meet with PE teachers and health teachers and wellness champions and just kind of getting the word out, like great news. It's really acknowledging biking and walking as a mode of transportation that many of our young people use. And this is what the state now requires. And here's how we're doing it is part of it. So just like Alyssa said, it's part what we're doing and part communicating about it. I would just add, just from my experience and being involved for a few years on bus safety transportation, just with that walking, biking piece, I think for what I would love to see, what I know that our teachers would really like to use would be grade level PowerPoint with photos and a script, perhaps, like that could be done during a class period, and then videos. I think they really, the bus safety videos get shown if nothing else happens, and I think a really good video, if nothing else, would probably get shown for this kind of back to school education. And I'm just going to say, I love the Safer Journey high school biking videos. I think those are excellent. We've used those in the Spanish ones. I cannot share the Safer Journey pedestrian videos because it really goes against, I think, what our social emotional people have taught us about. We want to show and have the exciting thing be doing the right thing, not doing the wrong thing. And there's too much in that video for the way that we've kind of been raised up to educate our kids of getting the humor and the joy out of people doing the wrong thing. And that isn't what will fly with our social emotional folks in MPS. So those are a few of our thoughts and what we're doing. The poster, I think, is also great. We shrunk it a little bit. We're lucky. I'm in the school lunch department, so we were able to shrink it to be the size of our menus. put it out district wide and ask our coordinators to hang those in the lunchrooms. So that was a real easy, it should be in every school hanging in the lunchroom. And then when they're translated, we will let our, I'll let classrooms order those, so individual classrooms can get those classrooms. It's very cheap by shrinking it just a little bit. Our graphic artist did that for us. It is it's like 19 cents, a really nice copy. So it's a real cheap, it's something that is easy for us to let classrooms order.
You all are also doing a lot, but I think one of the things that struck me as you were talking was like the way you're like, what are the things we're already doing? How do we like just tweak this thing a little bit or find like the next way that we can improve it and not like create a whole new thing, right? But like make the thing that we're doing one step closer to what we're trying to accomplish. I was talking with Shirley recently. I know you're on the call somewhere. Hi, Shirley. About just the idea of like, how can we break things into like just the smallest possible pieces? What is the thing that feels like just out of reach, and how do we like break that down into tiny, teeny tiny steps? And Jenny, I feel like you had a couple examples of really good teeny tiny steps, right? It's like the flyer already exists. How do I just like tweak it a little bit so that it can like be in the lunchroom with kids? The curriculum for the bus already exists. How do we, and we're already talking about walking. How do we just like expand that just a little bit to get one step closer? So I thought those were some really nice, tangible examples of like how to do that practice of like break it down into teeny tiny steps. So I appreciated you sharing. There is so much going on in the chat today, guys. I am feeling like I am not caught up at all. But I see there's some notes from Angela. There's a pedestrian focus poster coming up, since everyone seems to be unanimous in their desire to use the BikeMN posters. Oh, Joanne, you have a very popular YouTube video. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's in that video and why you're recommending it? Can I put you on the spot a little bit?
Sure. It's just a video that we did several years ago now. It's just Bike to School. So it is everything from an ABC check to how to do signaling. It's a short video, so I think that's why it's popular. But check it out. I know that the Rochester Public Schools just added that as a way that they will be meeting the biking requirement. So if it works for you, have at it.
Ask and you shall receive. Joanne has the video that you all want. That's really cool. And I see your note also that it's used lots of different places. It will be used even more places now that everybody has the link. So what else is going on in the chat? Some examples of things that people are posting online for communications. I see Tina shared some examples of some of the things that she's talked about, and Jenny, sorry, Jenny, has a link to the newsletter. So that's all really exciting. I will stop talking for just a second. I know we've got about 10 minutes left. And so, I think I'll pause and see if there's anybody else who would like to chime in, who maybe wasn't feeling brave enough to just come on off of mute while I was talking. I'll leave a signature Shuffman long, awkward pause for you all. All right, not seeing anybody come up. Oh, yeah.
If no one else will, I'll jump in for a second. I kind of wanted to lead with this and I didn't end up doing it, but on the last call, we did do some engagement with you all around kind of what the barriers were and what kind of resources you were looking for. We've done that here and in a couple of other spaces. I guess I wanted to say two things related to that. One is we've captured those and we're using those. So like what we're hearing today is great. I think it'll help us. We're in the same situation you are in a lot of cases of like, hey, we recognize this is a quick start. It's a quick start for us too. And we recognize that capacity is limited at schools and we're having capacity issues as well. And we recognize because of that there's a need to like start smaller and faster or easier, maybe is a better word, and then next year be able to do bigger and better. And so we're hearing all of this, and we expect, probably by the mid to end of this school year to have much more refined resources that are directed specifically at the legislation and incorporate what we're hearing from all of you. So I just wanted to assure folks that that is on the way. So if you're able to bridge that gap for now, that's fantastic. And we hope to be able to help you more as the school year goes on.
Thanks, Dave. Doing that engagement, best practice, reporting out what you've heard and what you're doing with it in real time. I would love to hear. So we've heard some from folks about kind of what's going on and how, and like high level strategies they're trying. I'm curious if folks are getting any feedback on the things that they're trying, right? So are you hearing from parents, from educators, maybe you are an educator, from kids, as you're doing some of these things, what are you hearing in terms of like a feedback loop? Or maybe you're not hearing anything, which would also be interesting to know. Karma, I know you shared that you're getting a lot of feedback that people are feeling supported and that like really grateful to have resources and things are feeling easy, which is like its own kind of feedback.
Yeah, that being said, I think the schools who have our help are loving it and loving the support. I think, some of the schools that have said, hey, I hear you can do this and have reached out where we don't have that capacity or they're not a part of our grant funding or don't have that support, that kind of thing. I think they're probably a bit overwhelmed. With it all. And that being said, there are some resources we've been able to provide to them of, we could train your people to do some of this education. We could provide you with some printed materials. We could, provide you with some help or direction or some supplies. But I think they are feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all. And kind of what our message has been is do something, do anything, just don't do nothing, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect. You just have to do something.
That is a great message. That is all the time. But yeah, I hear what you're saying of, right. Part of what it sounds like folks are feeling when you're able to support them is that like capacity add, right? Of like, oh, somebody here knows what to do, can like support us in doing that, lead the way. And so you're doing that as best you're able, but that there are more asks for support than you are able to meet, which is can be a tough spot to be in. So cool. Anybody else have any comments on feedback that you're hearing from the communities that you're working with? Otherwise, I'll move towards closing. We've only got 5 minutes left. I'm not going to make you all late to whatever your next thing is on the first week of school. Cool. All right. I am going to ask folks, I don't have like a poll set up formally, but I would love to close with, I think folks have done a good job of being like, yeah, here are the things that we're seeing that are feeling good. Here's where some challenges are. And I think with what can feel like, and Karma, you said an overwhelming ask for folks to, think about integrating this, not necessarily with the support and resources that folks would want. That it can be hard to focus on like our wins and our successes. So I would love for folks to just take a minute and put in the chat. You can also come off mute if you're comfortable coming off mute. Something that's feeling like a win or success. And I would love for it to be something small, right? I think we tend to define success or wins as like these really huge things. And I would love to hear about like the small successes, the small things that are lining up for you all. The thing where you're like, man, I had a really hard day, but like that thing went really well, right? I would love to just celebrate with all of you the things that we can celebrate as we're doing all this really hard work. So that would be my ask as we close out, and I'll read them out as folks put them in the chat, or I will sit here silently, or I will vamp with Dave if no one decides to put anything in the chat. Maybe you don't have anything to celebrate. I doubt that, but you all are a very smart and talented group of people. I say Tina put in a note celebrating funding sources. Applause to the folks at MnDOT for having resources, to the folks at MDH for having resources. Sophie had a great conversation with a new superintendent in a district that had been less engaged. Yay, that's such an important start to things. Angela, of course, shouting out webinar attendance last week, all those 20 people, great. MMDC has a brand new transportation community planner who's going to build great relationships and breathe new life into the safe routes work in the county region. That deserves, yes, all of the ta-da emojis underneath it. Kiddo biking, asking to bike to middle school, initiating a conversation about biking to middle school, even though there are some not great pieces on the way. Oh, that's nice. Celebrating, launched our routine walking school bus and had 3 kids, including 1 homeschool kid. What a community builder. People accepting on cold call meeting invites. Jenny setting the bar real high for small celebrations. No one accepts my cold call invites. Bike fleet booked up. Unsurprising and really, really great. A good problem to need more bikes. One of the districts registered and started sharing flyers and announcing walk to school day. And other folks in the district are ready to hand out resources and activities, partners at the police department, the fire department, and public health. Look at all these things we have to celebrate. So last call for things to celebrate. Keep putting them in the chat. But we will move towards wrapping up. Dave, do you have any other MnDOT things that I should be thinking about before we totally close? We have obviously the next couple months of safe routes calls. We're going to have some announcements for you all on the topics for those in the email follow-up. I'll make sure to include the notes. We'll also make sure to include some stuff from our folks, our friends at BikeMN, who have lots of things going on. I'm sure there will be things to announce in the newsletter. And yeah, check out the chat. I see some more celebrations going on. So thank you all for joining us on the first week of school. For many of you, I know it is a busy time, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the fall weather day. Take care, and I will see you all next month.